I hate waiting. I'm sure many people do. Sometimes you wait for something and only manage to do so because you know that it will be worth it. Back in 2012, I had stumbled upon this relatively short OVA series that blew my mind away. Blood and gore was the first thing that flashed before me, but slowly I saw how artistic and how dark it is at the same time. It wasn't quite like anything I had ever seen before, and to a certain point, it still isn't quite like anything I've seen after. I enjoyed it to its fullest until the dreaded episode 9. Don't get me wrong, episode 9 was incredible, as I would discover years later. It's not that it wasn't there either, it was right before my eyes, but one thing kept me back from watching it. I had begun watching the series in dub and quickly fell in love with it. It was so meticulously done that it pained me to listen to any other voice acting other than the one that I had started out with. It was a curse that I had to bear with till the end of this October, just in time for Halloween. Hellsing Ultimate is an OVA series that came out after the original anime series named Hellsing was released. Because the original series has strayed away from its source material quite a bit, people decided to make something that was closer to its pure form. And so Hellsing was dragged from hell and brought before us, still remaining the most spine-tingling, though not exactly the scariest anime that I've seen to date. Hellsing Ultimate is quite a piece of work. Set in what seems to be 20th century Great Britain, the city of London is infested with supernatural creatures that seek to do harm to the inhabitants. To counter against this situation, we have the Hellsing organization, whose sole purpose is to get rid of those said dangerous creatures, all while keeping themselves outside of public eye. While the organization has its handful with simply handling that, it seems that more and more strange events start surrounding the organization's most valuable player, Alucard. With the idea of fighting fire with fire in mind, the Hellsing organization has the smaller monster slaughtered by this bigger monster to great effect. But soon Alucard gets thrown into more and more difficult fights, either willingly or not, and the opponents seem to get more and more interesting. The setting is one of a kind. It's quite dark and unwelcoming, but that really helps build a mood that Hellsing tries to drag you into. To a certain point though, the story is somewhat childish. The story has Alucard fighting bigger and bigger, larger and larger, more and more enemies, and rarely does it stand away from that formula. With that said, Hellsing doesn't try to tell a complex story. Instead, it chooses to take a straightforward approach, as complicated as it tries to pretend to be. The characters are what they should be in an anime with vampires and demons. Creepy. Alucard fills the role of a vampire perfectly, emitting a cold and dark image, all while alternating between a calm thinker and a bloodthirsty monster. When Alucard tries to be scary, he does it in a bloody manner, and if, on the contrary, he wants to be seen as an enlightened individual, he does it with great ease. The other characters fill their shoes well. Sarah Victoria displays a young and quite naive woman being turned into a monster while trying hard to keep her humanity. Integra shows off her abilities as an adequate leader, and Walter does an amazing job in portraying a grade A butler. All these characters will get developed to a certain point throughout the 10 episodes, with some having their backstories slowly revealed bit by bit, piece by piece. The villains get a round of applause seeing how they seem so ridiculous, yet somehow also so well done. In order not to spoil, I will not reveal them, but I assure you, they're pretty ridiculous once you take a step back and think about them. All in all, while these characters aren't necessarily the most well-written characters, they certainly do excel at keeping this anime horribly entertaining. Hellsing is bloody good. The visuals are rather impressive, with attention to detail being the most mind-blowing part. Blood flows nicely, bullets fly beautifully, blades slash around the screen incredibly. These things add up and together become great. The sound is Hellsing's selling point. Apart from the amazing sound effects that the anime has, the voice acting is what truly sells the anime. Now, some might do the usual complaining on how the sub is always the way to go and all that bullshit, but this anime shows how far the English dubbing industry has gone. To be fair, it's not just that the voices are spot on, not that they aren't, and it's not simply that many big names appear either. It's how the English voices fit the anime so perfectly. Apart from the obvious powerful interpretations of the various characters with major props going to Alucard and Integra, the fact that we can hear the different accents come into play is also a major factor. For example, with most of the story taking place in England, hearing British accents are a major plus, and while the Japanese dubbing could have potentially had British accents, I for one couldn't tell the difference between normal Japanese and British Japanese. And if you can, then congratulations. All that aside, it's rare to find a dub that shapes the anime. While usually we find dubs being forced to conform to an anime's unique style and flavor, Hellsing's dub instead redefines the anime, recreating the truly dark yet classy atmosphere asked for much effort, and somehow, probably through some sort of black magic, the English dubbing crew managed to pull this off. Hellsing isn't a lot of things. It isn't exactly the scariest anime. It isn't the best written story. Instead, Hellsing is a magnificently done creepy action anime that perfectly interprets what monsters should look and act like. With all that said, by compiling the scores I've handed to Hellsing in the categories of story, characters, and aesthetics, we come to an overall score of 85.14. Making it a great anime, especially considering how relatively short and compact it really is. Thank you all for watching my review of the anime known as Hellsing Ultimate. I hope you enjoyed this review, and if you did, please leave a like or subscribe, since that goes a long way in motivating me to make more content. I am actually doing a major project at the moment, and I hope that it gets done very soon. Anyway guys, thank you all for watching. This has been Yvern and my box.